Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Riverside Arms 12-gauge single-shot shotgun. This is a restoration project. This little shotgun was brought to me by the owner of the Stevens 87A 22 rifle I restored last month. It's another family gun that's been stowed away and forgotten for decades. Like his Stevens 22 rifle, this Riverside 30-inch barrel 12-gauge single-shot hammer-fired shotgun was not a high-end firearm, but rather it was meant to be a no-frills, functional hunting gun, and they were often treated as such, leaving most examples today in pretty bad shape. The external rust and pitting is one thing, but a look down the bore was disheartening, especially at the muzzle. The owner had got his shotgun from his mother 20 years after his father passed away, and to his knowledge, no one has fired this gun in many decades. He asked me to test it out and see if I could clean it up. At the very least, it would make a nice wall-hanging conversation piece. Now, because this is basically a restoration video, I always think it's good to see the before and after pictures at the beginning. So here's the same gun after restoration. I think it turned out pretty good for what it is. Now make no mistake about it, and these old Riverside shotguns really don't have much value in themselves. I heard a dealer once remark that they might have some value as tomato plant stakes. I've seen old functional single-shot shotguns like this sell at auction for around $50. As such, I didn't worry too much about patina or original finish. I didn't bother to do a full disassembly. If I took it apart, no telling what problems I might encounter or create. So in this video, I'll review the Riverside 12-gauge single-shot shotgun and walk you through what I did for its restoration. It's not meant to be a showpiece, but I think you'll agree it certainly looks better than it did. This video also provides a pretty good example of what can be done with a gun with seized screws and pins or any other problems that make disassembly too difficult, showing that a good level of restoration is still possible. Now, let's make sure this gun is cleared first. And by the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Riverside Arms was a name used by the Stevens Arms and Tool Company of Chicopee Falls, Massachusetts after 1915. They used the Riverside Arms name on their less expensive shotguns. The guns were mechanically identical to the more expensive guns, but were less well finished and had hardwood stocks and forearms instead of walnut. Production was ceased during the First World War. After World War I, the Chicopee Falls factories were bought by Riverside Arms Corporation, and the gun business emerged as J. Stevens Arms Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of Riverside Arms Corporation. As I understand, the Riverside shotgun was originally offered in 12 and 16 gauges. According to the Stevens Arms catalog from the era, 20 gauge and 410 bore options were added by 1925. Savage Arms continued to manufacture both Stevens and Riverside guns up to about 1930, when they changed the name of their lower price line from Riverside Arms Company to Springfield Arms Company. So I'm guessing this gun was produced between 1915 and 1930, which means it's probably about 100 years old. There are no serial numbers or date markings, so that's as much as can be said about its age. That being said, mechanically it seems okay, although there's a lot of rust and pitting, and the wood stock has been banged up a bit. And as I said earlier, the bore on this one has some rust and pitting at the muzzle. But I don't think it's all that bad. I think it might clean up okay. Let's give it a shot. Well, here's the good news. Take a look at the bore after a bit of soaking with Remington shotgun cleaner and Birchwood KC barricade rust protection. And I had to use a little 0000 steel wool on the end of the inner barrel muzzle to deal with the rust in there. But you have to admit, it's not bad. And that's not all. After a bit of basic cleaning, oiling, and function testing, the action has loosened up functionally and seems fine. Also, I took this old gun out to the range for a trial run. Everything functioned as it should. No problems. It actually had a low recoil and easily took out the clays presented using light load 1350 feet per second shells. It's a well-built, simple design, and it appears to have minimal wear, so why wouldn't it still function? We're at our favorite sporting clay range on a nice fall day. Because I'm not sure about this gun, we're shooting some light load ammo today. We're only going to fire a few rounds just to check this gun out. I've already run a few shells through to make sure it works and is safe. My son will do the shooting for the camera. He's the better shot.
Pull.
Like I said, he's the better shot. Very nice. Nothing wrong with that.
Pull.
And nothing wrong with this gun. We're still left with the question of how much should be invested in cleaning this whole shotgun up. In absolute top condition, it might be worth $100, perhaps $150 to someone who is really sentimental, as it is now, but because it does work, maybe $50 to $100. There's a lot of these old guns out there, and there just isn't a lot of interest in them. The owner and I have discussed restoration options. It would appear that the barrel and the receiver may have been blued at some time, but the receiver could have been left bright, according to some old historical photos of these guns. The stock and the forend are probably inexpensive hardwood, probably birch, stained dark. The owner is just interested in a basic cleanup, so we've agreed that I'll go ahead and just do a simple, minimal job to re-blue the barrel and the receiver. The stock and the forend will be sanded, but the nicks and the dents will be left, and I'll try to match the stain as best I can and coat with satin polyurethane. Let's see how it turns out. Now, typically, I do pros and cons at this point of the review, but to be honest, I don't think that makes much sense here. The Riverside 12-gauge single-shot shotgun is what it is. These guns were never intended to be legacy firearms. They were built to function without a lot of frills. At about 100 years of age, the fact that this gun still functions is a real testament to its maker. Pretty impressive. Sometimes, depending on how they've been stored and cared for, disassembly can be the worst thing on these really old guns, and reassembly can be a real nightmare as well. We're going to start by trying to disassemble what we can. As always, I'm hoping for a bit of luck here. I'm assuming the stock removal will be fairly conventional. Let's hope I'm right. I'll remove this screw behind the trigger guard. I suspect that's what's holding the trigger guard on. I'll remove the butt plate here. There should be a bolt attaching the stock to the receiver. By the way, I'm not a gunsmith. I just like messing with these old guns, and I can only say what I've experienced. I'm fortunate to have a few gunsmith friends whose advice I've appreciated, and there's no doubt that YouTube and forums have also been invaluable. There's the trigger guard. And there's the butt plate. I really don't know what the heck all this stuff is. Yuck. I'd say this butt plate may never have been removed before. And there's the bolt. Good. I hope I have a long enough screwdriver here. And it turns. Yes. So far, so good. The stock seems to be in pretty good shape. More crud from 100 years of storage and use. Okay, now we'll take the forearm off if we can. There's just one screw here. I assume that should do it. Okay, I can see that someone has tried to remove the forend before and has stripped the head pretty badly. I've tried to loosen the screw, but our luck has run out. It's just not worth messing with for me. I'll have to work around it. I'm not happy about that. Okay, that's as far as I think we can go here. I've hoped that this was a breakdown shotgun, but no luck removing the barrel from the receiver. I've soaked the receiver screws with WD-40, and although they'll turn a little, they're just too much resistance. There's a really great trick for loosening rusted screws and pins that involves a sonic bath of 50-50 solution of automatic transmission fluid and acetone. But the owner isn't interested, so that's that. The screws all have wear, probably from a poorly sized screwdriver slipping, so someone has tried to work on this gun in the past. I think I can reach all the areas I need, so I'll deal with it. I can use steel and brass brushes around the areas like the trigger guard and the trigger, no problem. and so I'll leave them as they are. I can get around the lever here as I need and under it by moving it, so that should work. On your own project, you may want to disassemble further, but this is a low budget project and the owner isn't interested in perfection. Besides, if I ruin a screw or a part on this gun, I'm really screwed. Parts may be too costly or impossible to replace. Yeah, I'd really like to get this forearm off, but it is what it is. Oh well, I think this will work out just fine. Let's see. But let's remove this rust first. I've tried to loosen these screws on the receiver too. No luck. By the way, this will only be a brief overview of restoration. If you want in-depth information on the bluing process, I suggest you look at episode 20, 23, 24, Rebluing Steps, Tips, and Tricks, where you'll get everything you need. Here we have what I typically use for preparing for bluing. We've got birchwood KC cleaner degreaser, although denatured alcohol works just as well. I'll use Q-tips and patches to apply. We've got birchwood KC blue and rust remover, and here we have some birchwood KC super blue. These all work fairly well, but I'm not promoting birchwood products. It's what's available in my area. Other brands will probably work just as well in my opinion. Here I have safety glasses. I've got my assorted grades of sandpaper. I only use wet and dry sandpaper when sanding metal, and I use it wet, so I have my cups of clean water ready. I've got sanding pads if needed. I have 0000 steel wool as well. Here are steel and brass brushes for hard to reach areas. Plenty of paper towels are here and rags, and the same for disposable exam gloves. I've got some frog tape if needed. Okay, let's get to it. I'll start with the receiver. Now I've already done a test spot. I tried 320 and 220 grit paper, but the pitting was so deep I had to move to 120 grit. I really would have liked to remove these screws and pins, but it is what it is. And here's another thing. Because this gun is so rusted and pitted, there's not much point to using cleaner degreaser or even blue and rust remover. The entire surface will need to be sanded, so I'm just going to move on to sanding. Here's a receiver after sanding with 120 grit. I'm not worried about the deepest pitting. By the time I get down to using the steel wool, it'll be pretty good. I'm moving on to 220 grit now. This is the thing about steel and wood. As bad as it might look, a bit of work and they'll usually come back. Now it's really just a matter of sanding out the heavier sanding marks with lighter grit paper. I've noted that the metals of the receiver and the barrel are different. I suspect the receiver may not blue as darkly as the barrel. We'll see. Not bad. On to 320 grit. Now 400 grit. .800 grit is next. And we're at 3000 grit. Now we finish up with 0000 steel wool. By the way, I've been dealing with the trigger garden screws as we've been working here. Those are the only extra parts to blue. Looks pretty good. I'm going to use some denatured alcohol to clean and degrease it, and we'll be ready for bluing. Bluing is a chemical reaction. I've got a bit of birchwood super blue left over from another job, so I'll use it. But other brands will probably work just as well. I've already wiped down everything with denatured alcohol to degrease and clean it one more time. As you can see, the reaction is immediate. The instructions say to leave it work for 30 seconds, but I found if I leave it on for as long as I can see reaction, it seems to give me good results. It may not be any better than the 30-second instructions, but it doesn't seem to hurt to leave it on longer either. I've left the bluing on for about 15 minutes here. I'll wipe down everything with clean water next, then buff lightly with fine steel wool. Now I'll add a second bluing. I'll do this 3 times. Okay, after the final buffing with steel wool, I'm ready to apply a coat of oil and let set overnight. The oil helps cure the bluing. Tomorrow I can return the trigger guard, and that's that for the metal parts on this job. I can see it's not perfect, but it's far better than it was. Next we'll start dealing with the wood forearm and stock. All I'm going to do with this stock is some light sanding to remove whatever coating there is, leaving nicks and gouges as they are. Sort of adds to the character. Let's see what we get. I've got some special stain that I think will look fairly close to the original finish. Hard to tell because there's lots of differences in the current internet photos of these guns. Lots of different finishes. And you can see some were with brighter receivers and some were all blued. A bit of frog tape around the area of the forearm, and we'll do the same here. 3 coats of clear satin polyurethane to seal the wood, and that's it. Once everything's dry, I'll reassemble and wipe the metal areas down again with a light coating of oil. Here it is, all assembled. Not perfect, but for me it's the biggest job I've ever tackled. It certainly isn't the best job I've ever done, but given its condition, I think it actually turned out pretty good. We'll see what the owner thinks when he picks it up. Now note that in the end, I didn't like the appearance of the satin finish. Just too many dents and things that get magnified, so I resanded and went with a matte finish. I think it's a better look for this gun. As I said earlier, these old Riverside shotguns don't have much value, but this one shoots and it looks fairly decent now, so I expect it to be worth about $100 to someone. However, this was a family firearm, so it's probably worth a lot more than that to them. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you that if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching. This was a review and restoration video featuring the Riverside 30-inch barrel 12-gauge single-shot hammer-fired shotgun made by the Stevens Arms and Tool Company about 100 years ago. Riverside was the name used for their economy models, so it's a no-frills gun. Even so, mechanically, it was as good as their better models. This one was pretty badly neglected, but cleaned up well enough to please its owner. It was a tough one to restore because too many parts couldn't be disassembled without a risk of damage, at least by me, which meant I had to work around some obstacles. But in the end, it turned out to be a good example of what you can do even in these type of situations. And we know it can shoot. So in the end, this old shotgun will end up being more than just a wall-hanging conversation piece in this family's home. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.